I'm so thankful for your advice. I love how intelligent and eloquent you are and still have love.
And given me some great guidance and direction, and now it's up to me to execute it.
I feel a lot better just working through it. I thank you so much.
I feel like you already are instilling more confidence in me that this is possible.
Sick of sacrificing or settling in your romantic life? Welcome to Make Him Wonder with Coach Paula Grooms, where women struggling in real relationships ask the expert. Unscripted, unfiltered, understandable coaching conversations to help passionate women succeed in love.
Hi there, and welcome to Make Him Wonder. I'm your host, Coach Paula, a dating and relationship coach, licensed social worker, and author of the book, Why Won't He Commit? How a Man Decides to Make You the One. I wanted to come on and do this special Valentine's Day breakup avoidance episode of Make Him Wonder because I find it a very sad fact that statistics show that 20% of couples break up within a 2-week period around Valentine's Day. That's either before, during, or after Valentine's Day. And it is so unnecessary, and I think a negative way to break up, because it typically is about either some kind of problem in the relationship that is heightened by this day that is infused with all this meaning that is outside of the couple. And that's why it's very important that you really rethink things around Valentine's Day as the woman in the equation. So that's what we're all about here, is being a guide for a divine right relationship. That is our feminine power. And when we embody it in the correct way with our higher understanding of relationships in general, then we can really make the most of our lives, make men happier because they are happiest in good relationships, and both parties be healthier. So let's take a look at some of the statistics we have. Let's examine this issue of attachment style in relationships that precipitate most of the breakups around Valentine's Day. Because as this title, we want to understand the why and the how. When we do that, we examine it, we make informed decisions around it, we can better protect ourselves from a Valentine's Day breakup. Reframing is highly important because, again, Valentine's Day is a greatly commercialized day that does nothing, generally speaking, to promote our individual long-term happiness with a relationship. I like to reframe it in this way, that if you think about it as an event only, and your life in terms of your coupledom is filled with little events, and none of those events actually make up the entirety of a relationship, even a wedding day. And with statistics being that divorce for first-time couples is at 50%, for second marriages, it is at 62%, and it goes up from there according to how many marriages. If events in themselves were predictors of unequivocal longevity, then we might put more credence in something like Valentine's Day. But make no mistake, it is about making money for companies that promote it. Now, you may say, well, wait a minute, Coach Paula, I've been told my whole life if a man doesn't make a very big effort on something like an anniversary or Valentine's Day, what have you, then he isn't invested in me. And that is what we're going to talk about. So let's get into it. This article I pulled up from Psychology Today, I think really says a lot about the breakups around Valentine's Day. And I want to get into dissecting it and giving you my perspective. So one of them is that relationship reminders for people who have avoidant attachment, and those relationship reminders are outside of the couple, this creates a great deal of psychic dissonance, so to speak. And I believe it largely enhances the possibility of a breakup before, during, or after Valentine's Day. And the research kind of bears that out. In 2014, a researcher, William Shopik, and his colleagues examined the impact of attachment styles on relationship functioning and the fact that couples 20% break up before, during, or after Valentine's Day. Because when we allow outside stuff to come in and influence our experience, we can then function from that influence rather than even a reality of a relationship. And he and his colleagues, and I'm going to read from this because I think it's valuable. Shopik et al. Explain that individuals who are high in avoidance report a lower amount of satisfaction and investment as compared to individuals low in attachment avoidance, a result that was particularly relevant when the significance of their relationship was emphasized on Valentine's Day. So you might take from that, well, I certainly don't want to find a partner who is attachment avoidant, relationship avoidant. Well, ladies, we know that men statistically do not date to find relationships in the way that we do. So they are naturally more avoidant of relationships in general. Then if we add things like attachment style to that, well, it's no wonder that we have the issues we have in male-female bonding and relationships. But we can do a lot as women to circumvent breakups, which then show a man the worth and value and potential for long-term happiness via commitment and partnership. And of course, that's what we're all about here. So I want to speak about this in terms of something that I believe happens to most of us because of our programming as an infant through age 7. 7 is the age of reason. And you've likely heard me talk about this a lot because it's one of the 3 pillars under which I work with clients and certainly talk about on the podcast, in my programs all the time. It is such a significant part of why relationships are so difficult. So let's talk about the programming a bit and how this flows into what we're talking about today. So all of us come into the world without any experiential knowledge. We come as not programmed. There are 2 things that we know, and it is about all we know as the human animal we are when we come out of the womb and are first starting our days on earth. And that is, we know how to suckle, and we do have an innate knowing that our survival depends on others. And in the world of that infant, it's typically one main other, which is mother, and then father or other caregivers that are around in a very present sense. So because our knowing that our survival depends on this person and tangentially others, those others need to be very present as actual caregivers. And truly, only that mother figure lies into this. So what happens for us is that as we mature, first month, second month, third month, and on, our infant days are consumed with reading the signals of that caregiver and getting feedback that how we are behaving is going to render us safe, secure, fed, surviving. So what happens, unfortunately, for the infant, and again, this goes up through age 7, that we are in a theta brainwave state, which is the brainwave state that we hope to get adults into when we want to hypnotize them. So think of how profound that is. It's a hypnotized state. But there's a layer of this. Once we reach age 7, we start to step out of. And that is that it's not that we perceive that we are victims of what happens to us. We are the cause. This is so significant. And there is no amount of talking to any child under the age of 7, because they're in that brainwave state of theta, that will convince them otherwise. So everything that happens to us from birth to age 7, and again, that's a soft 7, but it's around that age. It's not like on your birthday at age 7, it clicks over. No, but make no mistake, we are intuiting everything that happens to us, not that we're a victim of it. So even if we are abused, we believe within our deepest subconscious mind, we are programmed to believe that we are fundamentally flawed as the beings we are, and that we deserve to have that treatment. Now, it's easy to see in the case of abuse that we would think about in our lexicon as outright abuse, physical, mental, whatever. But no matter the experience, it is a human experience to be traumatized as an infant in one way, shape, or form, because there is no perfect experience, because we're all human. For example, the perfect experience for a baby, an infant, up until minimally age 5 would be that the mother, in this case, it's mostly the mother, the main caregiver, is never out of the child's sight and completely provides for its needs without any personal needs of her own. You see, it doesn't even make sense because it could never be that, because the child is completely attuned to the smallest of infractions, feelings that are perceived from the caregiver. Because even if something is provided to the child can perceive that, well, she really didn't want to, or she's upset, or she's angry. But even if the mother doesn't intend to belie any of that to the child. So you see how attachment is easily thwarted in the positive sense. The mother is working, is ill, God forbid, passes away. All manner of things that can be on a scale of seriously traumatic and yet not so much traumatic, but can cause attachment issues. So when we continue in our romantic life to have, quote unquote, avoidant attachment or attachment issues, I think that while I understand the term avoidant attachment, and yes, there are extremes, but everyone's on a scale, because we all have fears of not having our love reciprocated, our needs met, anxiety around that, because we've all been that baby, and there is no perfect experience of it. There's all kinds of little traumas. So let's get to what happens then as we transfer our feeling of worth and lovability and our experience onto a love interest when we're even younger than teens, but then as teens, young adults. These things present themselves almost solely with romantic love interests, sometimes with very close friends, sometimes with other endeavors in life. But generally speaking, we can have excellent careers, good things happening for us in all other ways and not having issues, but yet have significant issues in romantic relationships. That completely makes sense. And what can happen depending on the programming in our subconscious? Because remember, this isn't conscious for most of us until we find out about it, make it conscious. And that's what I hope is happening for you. If you are following me, subscribing here, if you're listening on YouTube, listening or watching on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, you've bookmarked it, so to speak, so that you hear it on Spotify or wherever you're listening. So what happens is that we transfer the concept we got, the beliefs we put in our own subconscious onto the love interest. And if there's any schism in the attachment, which we just kind of outlined why there would be, what can happen for the majority of us? I mean, I can't think of anyone that it doesn't really happen. It's, again, all on a scale that we meet someone. And if we have a fairly decent self-concept, we interact with them, first off, at about the same level each. And what can occur is that we are jockeying to see, does he like me more? Do I like him more? Are we balancing out? This is in the very beginning. And then there's sparks and initially getting together. Everything feels wonderful and exciting and that we are on par. And here's what happens for the vast majority of us. And this happens with men too. But I want to speak to you here about the female experience, of course, that as we start to like them, we switch from, do I like him? And am I figuring out if I like him enough to continue to see him, to how much is he like me? How much is he invested in me? Does he like me enough? Taking the temperature on him in the way that you, in your baby mind state, took the temperature of mom, her care, love, her needs, etc. I'm getting to a big point here about breakups and Valentine's Day, is that, okay, so you're going along and you're having this relationship and you got to really check yourself. How much are you thinking about how much he likes me? What's he thinking about me? If you are upside down on this, not so much I'm holding myself of worth and value and seeing if he lives up to that and what he's willing to put in and how he's showing up for me, etc. But you are mostly about, how do I keep him liking me? How do I keep him coming back? How do I morph myself into something that he's going to want in the way that you did as that infant up till age 7 that you can't remember you did. And you also can't remember to the degree that it was incredibly difficult, upsetting, anxiety-provoking, but you feel as anxiety-provoked and upset now as an adult in that romantic relationship. So you're going along and you're feeling like this because generally men will be kind of going along, and because they love through wondering, they don't maybe talk about how they feel, or even if they do, it's intermittent and you feel like you don't really know. And we as women love through knowing, and you're anxious. So what happens is that here along January, early February comes this day whereby, oh, it should be flipped. And now he's got to show absolute taking ownership of the relationship and making a solid date and making plans and getting the right gift. And does that gift show enough of how much you mean to him, et cetera, which is an outside influence. And it's kind of flipping the switch on the guy. And he doesn't know what hit him when you're coming at him with either subtle or overt needs around this day, whereby you've allowed previously treatment, perhaps, or certainly avoidance on his behalf and lack of him putting effort. And then lo and behold, this date on the calendar makes this artificial switch, and he doesn't know what hit him. And that makes him sit back and say, well, what am I doing then? This is weird, maybe at best. He's caught completely off guard, and it doesn't compute or make sense to him. So what he then chooses to do is, is individual to that man, but it can cause a lot of issues that are unnecessary, because if you set yourself right, the relationship, he feels two things. I'm going to get to what those two things are. And you handle this day in a way that shows that you are in alignment with who you've been showing him to be all the way along. He feels what he needs to feel to stay, not make this day any bigger deal in the realm of your full relationship than it needs to be. So I'm going to get to those two things. Those two things are what he needs to feel on a consistent, continued basis, especially right before Valentine's Day, during it, and afterwards. It is how you handle if you are disappointed about what did or didn't happen. That makes all the difference. I'm going to get to these two things that are the most significant, foundational, and meaningful and impactful for your relationship to make it through Valentine's Day, continue, thrive, survive, and even thrive. We'll do that in a moment. I trust you're enjoying Make Him Wonder and that you're getting a lot of helpful information for the life of love you desire and deserve. So if you're not part of the 80/20 Wonder Club yet, you need to be, because now Make Him Wonder is exclusive, a members-only club to listen to every episode, past, present, and future, in full, all ad-free. The 80/20 Wonder Club is a Make Him Wonder membership that gives you all of seasons 1, 2, and 3 in a categorized list by age and relationship status, and a multimedia library of my content, including my book, Relationship Evals, and my Making Magic with Men Mindset Manual, a weekly action step you can focus on to attract and keep the man of your dreams and have him committing to you completely in the coming months. Make this the moment you start living as an 80/20 Wonder Woman, because love, like life, is best lived in 80/20. When you do 80% of what works with men, the 20% you don't won't much matter. Join the 80/20 Wonder Club by going to the 8020wonder.club. Don't miss out. Go now to the 8020wonder.club. You and your man will be glad you did. Okay, we want to get to these two things that are super important for you to make it through Valentine's Day and continue on, because there's going to be one then that is going to be your dream Valentine's Day. All right, first, we are going to look at the two things that are absolutely necessary for him to feel like he can continue and want to commit. It's two categories. The two categories are this: safety and happiness. Now, I've got to clarify what I mean by safety, because under safety are two subcategories, and they are, first, that the man feels safe that you are in the Madonna category of Freud's Madonna whore dichotomy. If you don't know it, look it up. It's something I talk about here a lot on the podcast, and it is foundational for a man to feel that you are in wife material, not just girl to have fun with. Madonna and whore, not my words. It's Madonna meaning Mother Mary. Whore, we know what that means. Don't like the word. The Madonna whore dichotomy is not at all true. It is something foundational in the male brain that has allowed us to propagate as a species. Great. Okay. We know it's there, so we can use it to our advantage and always be presenting ourselves in the more wifely category so that we can have the commitment we desire and deserve. So it allows the man to feel safe to commit to you when you've continued to show him from the very beginning that you are in the relationship category of a girl, not just a girl to have fun with. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, he must feel safe from your emotions that he as a man does not understand. Now, this is contextual. It's a little bit complex, but if you boil it down, it's lack of drama emotionally, because a man typically does not understand our emotional ups and downs. And if we put him in a position of having to fix what he didn't create, he will not feel safe. He will not trust that he can handle it. He will not feel that there's a rock foundation and that he's always off balance. And he just does not feel safe to be able to continue in a relationship. So why do I say this now? Well, I say it because if you've presented in a certain way, and we would need to change that over time for sure. In other words, if you've been always vying to have him liking you and getting confirmation and your validation from him, that has to change. But if you take an outside arbitrary thing like Valentine's Day, and then all of a sudden you switch to like, oh, well, I accepted all this kind of treatment before, but on Valentine's Day, I need you to show up like a knight in shining armor with all the right gifts and goodies and intention and so forth. It's a mixed message that he's not going to feel safe in the relationship. He's just not. So what do we do with that? Well, this is where it's individual. But when you get this concept and you understand, I can't make it about this day in a way that's going to completely pull the rug out from under him in terms of who I've been up until Valentine's Day, he's not going to feel safe from your emotions, not trusting. And if he has any attachment issues at all, well, then bam, yes, he's going to break up. And you will look back after the whole stuff and noise of Valentine's Day has passed and perhaps regret it. Now, I can help you with that if that has happened. It's what I do for women, getting you regulated. And that in turn allows him to feel safe, to be able to trust that there is a long-term forever possibility with you. Nothing happens in a vacuum. It's not just that he is avoidant or being a jerk or all the negative things that are out there that we're putting on guys now, which of course some of it is true, but you really need to look first within and what you have been showing him. And this podcast hopefully helps you with that, because I talk to women about that. And when you hear it objectively, hopefully you can start to apply it subjectively. And if you have a lot of problems with it, or even if you just want to change it up really fast, then you want to be in touch and let's get working on it together. Absolutely. Most relationships, and statistics bear this out as well, they do not break up or fall apart due to lack of love. Not at all. Typically, breakups happen without decision-making about it, without being truly mindful. and aligned and knowing. I am working on a program now, my Lure Him Back approach. And part of the approach can include a very mindful, intentional breakup that is handled with calmness, confidence, value, worth, and presenting it to a man in a way whereby then, through the approach, he gets into his feelings and becomes aware of his part in things. And then we reset things so they can be restarted and then they can go forward. And if this has happened to you even before this episode comes out because of Valentine's Day, and I hear all kinds of stuff, he hasn't planned the date yet. Well, you know what? You've probably accepted a lot of non-planned things along the way. I use an analogy about Valentine's Day. Now, sure, we all know it's February 14th because it's February 14th every year. But there is such a difference between men and women in this way that it's not this thing that most men are thinking about, oh, I got to get ready for Valentine's Day, unless they're in a place of maybe being ready to propose. So while, yes, if you're in a good relationship, according to whatever he can do, his level of being romantic or making this one more special than another, what have you, he will be doing something, but it's maybe at the last minute. Now, that doesn't sit right for so many who are making it about this day, and he's got to come forward with these huge plans, and if he doesn't give you jewelry or this or that, he's not into you, or all the stuff that it's according to what the relationship has been, what you have shown him, your self-concept, what you have accepted in the past, all manner of stuff. And you switch it up because of this thing outside of your relationship, you're going to have a breakup, serious issue, and maybe schism that is going to break you up. So we're now going to get to the other thing that the man must have. We talked about safety and the two things under the category of safety he needs. And this is, want to know more about the two most significant and impactful things a man must feel in order to maintain your relationship through this Valentine's Day season, so you're not one of the nearly 20% that break up? In the rest of this episode, I outline exactly what your man is going to need to feel safe and secure with you this Valentine's Day, and what will inspire him to give you the dream relationship and future romantic Valentine's Days you desire and deserve. And because I want you to get this result with the man you love, I invite you to check out the 80/20 Wonder Club, where you can hear the rest of this episode and so much more. The 80/20 Wonder Club is an exclusive membership-only club of the Make Him Wonder podcast. Most episodes are unfiltered coaching conversations with real women who come to me for my advice on how they can succeed in their relationship. You can hear many of the episodes on the Make Him Wonder playlist on my YouTube channel. But to get all of each episode ad-free, you'll want to join the 80/20 Wonder Club, as that is where over 150 ad-free episodes are categorized by age and relationship status. And all new episodes are there the moment they're formatted and ready to be aired. Unfiltered coaching conversations for you to hear and learn how to become an 80/20 Wonder Woman. The 80/20 Wonder Club also includes my Making Magic with Men Mindset Manual, a weekly video series of mindset and mechanics practices for you to do at your own pace each and every week. Join the club monthly and cancel at any time, or save by committing to a 6 or 12-month membership. And not only will you save by committing to more, you'll receive a full coaching intensive experience where you'll be talking to me personally. You choose the date anytime during your 12 months, and I'll be answering all your questions on getting what you desire and deserve in your romantic life. Don't miss out on how to make your man wonder in the right way to have the divine right results you want in your relationship, or how to start dating in a way that guides a potential Mr. Right to do right by you. Go now to THE8020wonder.club so you can hear the 2 foundational things a man must feel in a relationship with you in order to commit, and how you can make this Valentine's Day the one where he'll know you're the one for him. That's THE8020wonder.club. You and your love will be glad you did.